Hi, this is Billie Beene here with a world news update. Today is December 12, 2023. It's about 6 a.m. Texas time. Some of my sources are God in the Bible, Patriot subscribers, Hal Turner, War News 24/7, a rumor mill, George Eaton, article, Iran Free Press. Some of the things we'll be covering: the U.S. and deep state scare moves, intel, Russian calendar showing something going on in the U.S. in November 2024, what's going on in Venezuela and Guyana, Israel, Ukraine. So let's get started. Okay, our first major story is what the deep state is trying to do in the U.S. in terms of movies, mainstream media, what I call basic scare moves. Over the weekend, we had a movie come out. It was on Netflix, Leave the World Behind, starring Julia Roberts, described by George Eaton as being a combination of Twilight Zone and Hitchcock. Hitchcock was a 50s, 60s, a mystery TV series in the U.S. by the director Alfred Hitchcock. Twilight Zone was also kind of a spooky show. And what the movie depicts is a grid and comms down in the U.S. The power grid, comms, TV, radio, internet, gone. And certain dialogue in the movie that it's some type of global event, not put forth by the deep state. But let's examine what's going on. We have multiple levels of propaganda going on: movie, TV, press, toward some type of power grid and comms down in the U.S., as if to imply an outside attack. And who are the producers of this Netflix movie? Barack and Michelle Obama. Definitely part of the deep state. And we know that they were most likely involved with the coup that took place in the U.S. in November of 2020. So that's going on. So we see the movie. And now we have this from Daily Mail. So we see a movie, and now we see press coming in, talking about, and we know this is part of a coordinated deep state propaganda program, because as soon as the article came out, it's widespread on all of the U.S. propaganda mainstream media platforms, on TV, NBC, ABC, and so on, talking about the CCP being able to hack U.S. infrastructure like our power grid and comms, radio, TV, and internet. And so this is coming out. The CCP in Beijing can hack, or did hack, U.S. infrastructure. In Hawaii, it was a water system. In the U.S., in Texas, it was power grid infrastructure. And they also, and on the west coast of U.S., California, and so on, it was a port facility. So we see a press release detailing multiple levels of U.S. infrastructure, water, power, port. Okay, and saying that CCP in Beijing hacked these locations, and the code name for this CCP program is Volt Typhoon. So we see a little intel coming out. And we have this. In Texas, what was hacked in August of 2023 was the Public Utility Commission and the Electric Reliability Council in Texas. And so the plan is coming out that the CCP has a plan that involves taking down the infrastructure in the U.S., water, comms, TV, radio, internet, electricity, and launching a massive cyber attack. This is how it's being described. CCP is going to launch a massive cyber attack on the U.S., and then after that, follow it up with an amphibious invasion. You know, ships and subs. So that's going on. And now we have this. This is also part of the propaganda coming out. So we see a movie, we see a press release talking about CCP launching an attack on the U.S. infrastructure. A third leg of this was something released and picked up by Hal Turner. Now, the intel confirms this is a Russian calendar that would be used for their military and government. And what it is showing is June, July, and then November of 2024. And we see on the front of the calendar a very buff President Putin, implying that he's going to be in charge in 2024. And in June, what we see on the front of this Russian calendar, we see a Russian soldier who is holding a cat, like a calico cat. Now he has on a Russian military outfit and the traditional mask we see all militaries now wearing around the world. He has on goggles and he's holding a cat. What I look for in the outfits the Russian military was wearing was to see if they were wearing a bio level 4 outfit, which would be a face mask, goggles, gloves, but also an independent oxygen source. I did not see that on any of these 3 pictures that were presented. That was for June, July, and November. Now, there were certain dates in red on the calendar, and the dates in June are June 8, 9, 15, 23, 24, 25, 29, and 30. So I'm going to keep this and see in the future if any of these dates correlate to major events in the U.S. Now in July, we have a picture of a World War II CCP soldier who's holding a China flag. And we see In front of the CCP soldier, we see a Russian soldier who is kneeling and holding a weapon. So that's going on. The dates for July in red on the Russian calendar: 6, 7, 13, 14, 20, 21, 27, 28. And now we have November, and it shows a picture of the White House. It does have a U.S. flag in front of it that is in the direction of to the left. In other words, it shows the flag blowing to the left. And we have, and on, so here is the White House, like this. We have to the right, we have a helicopter. To the left, we have a troop transport plane. And we have the flag bearing to the left. And the dates on the November calendar in red: November 3, 4. And we know this will be the dates for our next presidential election in 2024. And then we have 9, 10, and then 16, 17, and then 23, 24. Now, I took note of the skies in all of these calendar pages for June, July, November. And the sky is always cloudy, and it's the most cloudy in November. We've been looking at some kind of space event affecting the Earth, and according to the propaganda in the movie Leave the World Behind, they're implying this is a global event not orchestrated by the deep state. I submit to you that's not true, because we see a coordinated propaganda program being put forth right now, a movie, a press release, and the release of this calendar, a little intel. So yeah, I'm not buying that it isn't the deep state. And I submit what they're engaging in are scare tactics. And I believe a primary objective would be to lock down or not have the presidential U.S. election in November 3, 4, because 80% of the U.S. population is awake. We understand in November of 2020, there was actually a coup in this nation. So, yeah, that's going on. But I believe we'll see people coming out with scare tactics. Yeah, we've got this Russian calendar and they're going to attack the U.S. I'm not buying that. So I wanted to bring my perspective with what's going on. I believe it is a deep state propaganda program. I believe the objective is to control or do away with the next presidential election. So that's going on. Now we have this. We'll look at what's going on in South America militarily. So we've got the U.S., Texas, California. We've got Central America coming down to South America. We've got Venezuela and Guyana. Now, I consider what's going on in this area to be extremely dangerous, and I don't believe that this should be tolerated by world governments. We have Venezuela in their government with a vote to annex Guyana simply because they want their resources. So we have now the U.S. military is in this area. We have from Western Journal, U.S. military planes December 7 fly over Guyana. They call it routine, but this is my perspective. I believe that Venezuela, by the U.S. military, and the Guyana military, and the Brazil military combined should kick Venezuela to the curb. He has also a deep state leader in Venezuela, and this is my perspective. Venezuela, we should have the U.S. military, the Guyana military, and the Brazil military combined. Kick Venezuela's military right to the curb, and if they don't back off and concede that they are not going to invade Guyana, I believe that a combined military effort should take place. They should go into Venezuela, take out their military, and also go for regime change and put in place a rule that the U.S. militaries of the militaries of the U.S., Guyana, and Brazil will control the government of Venezuela for at least 10 years. And I absolutely believe they should put in place a democratically elected individual who is for the people of Venezuela and the peoples of South America, and thus the peoples of the world. I do not believe in military skirmishes. You come in full force, you kick your enemy to the curb, and if they don't relent, then you go in, take out their military, and bring about regime change. So that's going on. And now we have this. We'll talk about what's going on in the Middle East with Israel. So we've got Israel, we've got Gaza, we've got Jordan, Iraq, Iran going on. Now, this is coming out from Iran English News. They're talking about in Israel, the people were demonstrating again in Haifa and Tel Aviv, and they called for the resignation of Benjamin Netanyahu. That was just a few days ago. We're not hearing about that on the mainstream media, are we? And we had this. A few days ago in Iran, they had an oil refinery. They had 18 reservoirs of oil that were all bombed. And no one is saying who bombed it or even why. Now, we continue to have, this down here is Oman, we've got Yemen, the Houthis continue now to do a blockade in the Red Sea, and now they're extending it to all ships in the Red Sea. They don't have to be associated with Israel now. This is according to the Jerusalem Post. Yep. So that's going on. The world is going to have to take some kind of action there. And now we have this from Hal Turner. Okay, we had a source talking about the number of people killed in Israel, and in the Palestinians, we have about 25,000, and that includes 10,000 children. So that's totals to date. Injured, we have about 50,000. That's in Palestine, and we know Israel's been bombing all their hospitals, so they don't have access to medical treatment. We have a population in Gaza, 2.3 million, and displaced so far is 1.8 million. Now, we do see Israel engaging Hamas occasionally. Primarily, they're bombing and slaughtering unarmed civilians. That's what's going on. So we do have a number for the number of Hamas killed by Israel as being somewhere in the neighborhood, I would think now maybe 2,000. And we're hearing from chatter sources that Hamas is deep underground and they have tens of thousands of weapons. So it appears that Israel has not begun yet to fight their real military enemy, and instead continues a directed program on a day-by-day basis of slaughtering unarmed civilians, many of which are children under the age of 16, and then also bombing all the hospitals, so there is no medical aid. And this week we also had reports of the IDF, Israeli Defense Force, also burning aid supplies of food and water for the civilians. So that's going on. And now we'll talk about Ukraine. And there's a possibility that it was Israel who bombed Iran. And so far, I don't have a clear handle on what it is Israel has against Iran. I know in the past we would hear reports of Israel going into Iran and assassinating their nuclear scientists. Now, I know that the propaganda put forth by the deep state in the U.S. and possibly on a global basis, Iran might get a nuke. Iran has had nukes for decades. All the intel organizations globally know this. Plus, from Mike from around the world, who we believe works for the NSA, Iran also has back-engineered ET technology and has had for decades. So, let's deal with facts the way they are. Now we'll talk about what's going on in Ukraine. So we've got Russia all the way over here. We know that the NATO is trying to set up something in the Baltics. They're seeing it's a failing cause in Ukraine. So we've got Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, Kherson, Odessa, Crimea. So this is going on. So Ukraine, now this week, Ukraine is admitting to being a state sponsor for terror. And oh, isn't the U.S. supporting this? And these are two of their acknowledged incidents of assassinations. One was of a 46-year-old Ilya KYVA, who was formerly with the Ukraine government. He defected to Russia. He was assassinated by gun inside Russia near Moscow. And we have also a 51-year-old individual who's now part of the Luhansk government. So that means that this individual had been in Luhansk for years because he's now part of the government. And yeah, he's on the deputy. He's a deputy with the Luhansk People's Council. And so he was also assassinated. So that's going on this week. And Zelensky, or another spokesperson for the Ukraine government, came out and made that public, saying, yes, we as a nation state, we took actions that would be described as terror in other nations. Moscow and then Luhansk is now part of Russia also. Okay, so now we have this. The Russian government is going to let Ukraine, the people of Ukraine, decide by referendum, just as they did with Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson, if they want to be a part of Russia. And so they will set up a system so the people can vote on it. But in order to bring about a vote by the people in this part of Ukraine, means that Russia will go in and take militarily Ukraine border to border. So the deputy chair of the State Duma, that's part of Russia's government, Yurt Shevkin, has brought this up on the government floor. And so it's going to be voted on whether they take all of Ukraine and then let the people vote. And also they're talking about a role for the army of New Russia. New Russia is all of this area. So that's going on. And now, with the war effort going on this week, Russia has been able to produce 3 times their ammo. So now they've lifted restrictions for the Russian soldiers. They can use 1 drone for 1 Ukraine soldier or equipment. So they've increased the amount of drones, ammo, and so on that the Russian military can use against Ukraine. And we see Russia taking all of this area and moving forward by kilometers, by miles. The next objective we understand is Kharkiv and also Odessa, Transnistria, which is part of Moldova. So they're moving in this direction. And Russia storms Ukraine in 12 regions, engages on December 9, according to War News, hand-to-hand combat. Russia also penetrates 2 forest areas, 600 kilometers. I believe that would be about 500 miles. That's not correct. So 600 kilometers is correct. Okay. And they're also going into Seversk with paratroopers, and in 24 hours they penetrated 8 kilometers, which is 5 miles. And they move toward this area. The Russian VDV fights the Ukraine Edelweiss Mountain Brigade Hunter, the Edelweiss Mountain Hunters Brigade in this area. But Russia is taking things down. And now we have this, that Russia has brought about an attack on the capital, Kiev, and they used Kinzhal hypersonic missiles. This was on December 11, yesterday. They made 7 attacks. They used Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, which took down the Patriot air defense system. And then in the second wave, they used Iskander ballistic missiles and Jiran-2 drones. And the British intel is that Russia has taken down in Kiev 2 energy power plants, and that currently Ukraine doesn't have enough energy for Ukraine, so they're importing energy from Poland, Slovakia, and Romania. And now we have this, talking about Germany over in this area. So the U.S. plus Germany to Ukraine capitulate to Russia. And there was a secret JB, that's the actor wearing a mask, the front person for the deep state U.S. government. And Schultz, he's a leader of Germany, had a secret meeting and said to Z of Ukraine, capitulate to Russia. And we have this from the Wall Street Journal. The U.S. assesses Ukraine as not being able to put together an offense by the spring of 2025, and absolutely unable to do anything in the coming calendar year 2024. So that concludes my world news update. I'll do a short prayer using the modified version of General Patton's World War II prayer. Father, grant us fair weather for battle. Guide us from victory to victory and crush our enemies, domestic, foreign, and off-world. And we say thank you, God the Father, God the Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, and God the Holy Spirit. I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there, continue to pray. God is in charge, and He is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.